Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. Today I want to talk about meditation, but I want to talk about it in a little different way than I have recently. I would like to talk about meditation as how it relates to Christian meditation, biblical meditation, scriptural meditation. See, it's very important. I think it's good that I talk about this. I was listening to the radio today, a nice radio show, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but I'll think of it maybe in the next video, and I'll tell you. But there was a man on there, Mr. Dr. Conrad Vine from Andrews College, and he wrote a book about a biblical method of meditation, and he talked about it on the radio. It was just outstanding, so I went and looked it up, and I found it. And he says that meditation is very much in the Christian tradition, going all the way back to the very beginning. But he says what has happened is that of late, since the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, there have been other sorts of influences that have crept in. And so I think it's good to talk about it in terms of biblical or scriptural meditation. For example, he brings up an excellent point, and that is that meditation is talked about several times in the Bible. But we are exhorted to meditate on God's Word, on God's mighty deeds in the salvation history, and to meditate on what He's done for us in our life, you see. So, and the idea of it is to get closer to God, like in prayer, to communicate with God and get closer to God. So you see, that's a far cry from some other types of meditation, which are basically meditations about self. For oneself to feel better, or to discover oneself, or one greater self, or to see it's about self. And so this meditation, the good meditation, is very nicely anchored in prayer and in Scripture. Okay. Or you could say in prayer and in, let's say, good Christian writing. Let's put it that way. So let me just very quickly, and the good Dr. Conrad Vine did a very nice job of bringing forth some of the passages in the Bible that talk about meditation. For example, Joshua 1:8. It says that this book of the law, this is God through an angel. Joshua is exhorted thusly: this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe and do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Okay? So he's being exhorted to meditate upon the book of the law, so that he can obey the law, follow the law, and then prosper. Okay? Let's go on to Psalm 1:2. Psalm 1 verse 2. Well, actually, Psalm 1 verse Psalm 1 verse 2 says, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Okay? So there's an eager desire for the truth. You see, there's a desire for the truth. And meditating is meditating upon truth. The truth that one yearns for. Meditation is mentioned in Psalm 5:1. Give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my meditation. Hearken unto the voice of my cry, my King and my God, for unto thee will I pray. My voice shalt thou hear in the morning, O Lord. In the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee and look up. Okay. Psalm 19:14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. You see how it's all a relationship between the person and God. The person wants to know God, to know God's law, to know God's word. See, meditation Psalm 49:3. Psalm 49 verse 3. My mouth shall speak of wisdom, and the meditation of my heart shall be of understanding. Okay, that's very interesting. See, if you have the right mindset, let's say you have a meditative state of mind, a heavenly state of mind, as the Kabbalah manuscript, the translation of the Kabbalah manuscript says. Then, when you read a little something, some good, nice Christian writing, not from the Scripture, then you will you will understand. You will spark understanding that comes from within. And then from within will come wisdom. Your mouth will speak wisdom. You won't even know where it comes from, but it comes from within. It comes from God. It comes through the inner light. See? And the words on the page were only an occasion, a spark, a catalyst to bring something to the fore, so then you could meditate upon it and understand it. Okay? In God's light. The understanding comes from God. See? The words on the page only awaken. The understanding comes from God. And then your mouth speaks wisdom that it's not even yours. It comes through you. Okay? Psalm 63, verses 5 and 6. My soul shall be satisfied as with marrow and fatness, and my mouth shall praise thee with joyful lips, when I remember thee upon my bed and meditate upon thee in the night watches. Okay. Meditation in Psalm 77:12. In Psalm 77:12 it says that I said, this is my infirmity, but I will remember the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the works of the Lord. Surely I will remember thy wonders of old. I will meditate also of all thy work and talk of thy doings. Okay? So you see, this is a meditation upon God's word, upon God's truth, upon God's law, upon God's wonderful, mighty works. Okay? And then it'll also be a meditation upon what God has done in your life. Now, Timothy 4, verses 13 to 16. This is Paul writing to Timothy. He says, till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given thee by prophecy, with the laying on of hands of the presbytery. Meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine, continue in them, for in doing this shalt thou both save thyself and them that hear thee. Okay. Meditation is mentioned in Philippians 4, verse 8, the letter to the Philippians from Paul. Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always. This is Philippians verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. And then he said, finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are honest, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. Think on these things. Okay? Meditate upon these things. Okay? So now, having said all of that, let's tie it in directly with meditation. Now, what I would like to do is to read you just a little something from a wonderful book written by Madame Jeanne Guyon. Madame Jeanne Guyon, the nice lady who lived around 1700 in France. Very spiritual lady. She wrote some classic spiritual books, and one of them was her little book. A little book called, for short, Le Moyen Court, the short method. A short and easy method of prayer is what she called it. A short and easy method of prayer. Okay? It's been translated into English many times. Here's an example right here. This is Experiencing God Through Prayer. Nice little, actually a nice little translation. It's from Whitaker House. Came out several years ago, but I like this one. In another of my videos, I tell the story of how I found this. Okay. Now, but I want to read to you from the translation of her book, A Short and Easy Method of Prayer, called Spiritual Progress. Listen to what she says about meditation. She says the first degree of prayer, meditation. So she calls meditation the first degree of prayer. There are two ways of introducing a soul into prayer, which should be pursued for some time. The one is meditation. The other is reading accompanied by meditation. Meditative reading is the choosing some important practical or speculative truth, always preferring the practical, and proceeding thus. Whatever truth you have chosen, read only a small portion of it, endeavoring to taste and digest it, to extract the essence and substance of it, and proceed no farther, while any savor or relish remains in the passage. Then take up your book again, and proceed as before, seldom reading more than half a page at a time. Okay, so now let's talk about this. So what does she say to do? She said to find some nice spiritual writing, nice Christian writing. It could be the scripture, okay, or it could be something else, but something nice. And she said, read a little something. Read a small portion of it, endeavoring to taste it and digest it, to extract the essence and substance of it. Let's see, what does she say in French here? In French, she said, la lecture méditée, c'est autre que de prendre quelques vérités fortes pour la spéculative et pour la pratique, préférant la dernière à la première, et lire de cette sorte. Vous prendrez votre vérité telle que vous le voulez choisir. Ensuite, en lire 2 ou 3 lignes, les digérer et goûter, tâchant d'en prendre le suc et de se tenir arrêté à l'endroit que l'on lit tant que l'on y trouve du goût et ne passant point outre que cet endroit ne soit rendu insipide. So she actually says to read, she says to read 2 or 3 lines. In the original, she says read 2 or 3 lines, and then as soon as you and digest it and as soon as you find something that has that has some meaning, some substance for you, then stop right there and don't read anymore. Okay? Now that's actually quite good. Then she goes on to talk about meditating without reading any verses. But I think this is very good. So let's just go with this here. Because I understand exactly what she's saying. And in fact, that's what I do. However, I have to say this. Madame Guyon was a very spiritual lady. And I believe that she had the meditative state. She already had it. She had objectivity. She was a little bit distant to, the things in the world that pull upon us. Most of us are pulled out into the world. Every little thing, every little emotion, every little reaction, every little excitement, every little irritation, every little resentment pulls upon us. Okay? Not to mention the things we see, our iPhone, what people say, what we read, every little thing we're pulled out into the world. So the meditative state is where you develop and quite easily actually, if you have a mind to. In other words, if you want to know the truth, you really and truly want to know, do you have a desire for the truth? You have a love of truth and a desire to do right. A love of truth and a desire to do what is right. Maybe you haven't been able to. Maybe you haven't found a lot of truth. Okay? You hear people and there's always something, maybe you liked what you heard in church or what you read, but there was always the hand of man in it. There was always something extra that people put in, a little bit of ego, a little bit of pride, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of a challenge. Or they twisted it a little bit, see? They always put the hand of man in. It made you resentful, so you rejected it maybe. Or you ran away because you couldn't bear hearing the beautiful things trampled by people who spoke them that didn't really love. You could tell they didn't really love them themselves. They were using those truths for some purpose, to build themselves up, to win people over for some reason. And then you became resentful, you see, of people. That's the main thing. Other people. Your father who wasn't there for you, your mom who yelled at you, or people who rejected you, or teased you, or tempted you. People lied and were phony, abused people, and stole, and see, wall-to-wall deceit, wall-to-wall confusion, wall-to-wall pride. And so you hated them. You hated people. Because somehow you needed someone, you wanted to do right. You wanted to be strong and courageous and noble. Okay? And to do right. But somehow people always, they got in the way somehow. They teased you, they challenged you, and they weren't there to help. When they were there to help, there was something phony about it, something emotional about it, something sticky about it, something condescending about it. See? But deep down in your heart, you loved the truth. And you wanted to do right. But the more resentful you became at other people, the less you were able to do right because of your resentment of others and your hatred of them and your hostility, you turned it upon yourself. You hated yourself too. But all of this hatred and hostility and anger made you guilty. And then not wanting to see your own guilt, then you began to escape. You escaped into drugs and marijuana and alcohol and work and partying and entertainment and music, and these things were all escapes. But there was something but somehow deep down inside somehow, you loved the truth. And you wanted to do right, but you couldn't. Okay? Well, the day comes when you're ready somehow. See? So it takes a lot of us a long time. Well, usually, coming back to God. I mean, the journey of salvation. often begins around age 40, actually. It doesn't have to. It could start right when you're young, but I mean, a lot of times it does, around age 40. For me, I was 39 when it started, when all of a sudden God entered my life. And it was nothing that I brought about either. See, it was nothing of me. It's very important. You see this all the time in the New Testament. Christ speaks of this, and so does Paul. And somehow there should be nothing of man in it. Nothing of which man could take pride or take credit or boast. It's all for God, all for God's glory. See? And so somehow, some mysterious way, he saw that I was ready, and then he entered my life, and then began to change first by seeing my own wrongs. See, those are the first truths that you have to see. But if you really love the truth and you're ready, then those truths about your own wrong, you won't mind seeing them. Sure, they're painful. Sure, they're painful to see your own wrong and your own resentment and so on. But you don't mind. It's like a sad glad. You're sad to see your wrong, but you're glad to see it. And you're glad the truth is there, the light of truth shining. Okay? So then you're ready to meditate. Okay, you're ready. So you drag yourself to a chair, sit in it, close the door. There's always a reluctance. And there's always something in your mind that says, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. Something terrible will happen if you do it. This is nothing. It's phony. It's weird. It's Roland. It's who knows what he is. And you don't need this. See? Any kind of distractions, flurries of distractions and worries and just anything to stop you. Basically, that's the idea. Whatever it is, doesn't want you to meditate properly. Because then it loses control over you. And it will be exposed, and then it has to leave, you see. So the real you can once again come back to life and begin to live properly. So you drag yourself into a chair and sit down and you begin to meditate, the very simple meditation that I have. And that puts you in the objective state where you feel a little bit distant. You go out in the world and you still work and do, talk to people and you do everything, but just not so close. You're just a little bit more your own person, less reactive. Little distant. You're in the world but not of the world. Okay? Well, that's the meditative state. You're closer to God's light. Instead of being lost in the darkness of your imagination, the darkness of your planning and scheming and your intellect, okay, down there where you rationalize and excuse and plan and scheme and daydream, fantasize. See, the enchantment of your imagination to be lost down there. It's a substitute for reality, because in reality, you didn't want to face the truth of your own wrong, your own helplessness, your own failings and inadequacies. You didn't want to face them, so you escaped into this alternate reality. And video games and music and entertainment, those are all assist in that process of escape. But more than anything else, we're escaping into the darkness of our intellect and mind, but you won't find God down there. See, you find God in reality when you come step back from thoughts, step back from fantasy. Okay? So it's not trying to get rid of thought. It's not trying to blank thought. No, it's standing back and just observing thought. Like standing on the bank of a river and watching the river flow by. See, instead of jumping into the river. There's a big difference between standing on the bank and watching the river flow by. There's a difference between that and jumping into the river. So now you learn how to stand back. You learn the little technique of standing back, and now you have some objectivity. So now, see, Madame Guyon already had this. She didn't need to she didn't need my meditation. She already had it. So for her, she sits down, she opens up a book, maybe it's the Bible, maybe it's some other nice book. She reads a little bit, and then all of a sudden she sees something. Oh, I see. See? She understands the meaning. See? And so there's something good to read, something good to meditate on. So then she stops with that. That's enough. See? So now she goes out in the world, but what she had seen, what she had realized, now she has that with her. And as the day goes by, then she has more realizations, more understanding, deeper. She sees different facets of what she saw that morning. So, for example, this morning I saw that in order to begin to meditate, to be able to meditate, you have to have a love of truth and a desire to do right. Remember I said that earlier? Well, that came from this morning. I saw that written. A love of truth and a desire to do right. Yeah. And that has been with me all day. And then when I heard the program about meditation this morning, as I was driving in the car, about biblical and scriptural meditation, see, it was right there. So I'm still with it. That one line that I read this morning, that was enough for all of this. But Madame Guyon already had the meditative state. Okay, so she was already ready to sit down, read a little something, and then glean from it something. And she understands that it's the internal testimony that's the important thing. It's the inner light, seeing in the inner light, realizing in the light, understanding in the light. That the words on the page are only an occasion to spark that, to begin that understanding, and then carry that with you during the day. See, so that's what she would call scriptural, or what was the term she used? Not scriptural, but what was it? The term meditative reading. Meditative reading. Okay, so that's what I do. Okay, meditate a little bit, then go somewhere like Starbucks or somewhere, get a little cup of coffee or a cup of tea, sit down, read, get a book that's good. Just read until I understand, see something. Then sometimes I'll be moved to write. And then I write about what I had. Some insights that flow from that little bit that I read. Okay? And then sometimes I enjoy what I read, but nothing comes to me. Okay? But sometimes a lot comes to me. And then it's with me during the day, and then I see it sometimes again and again. So that's how you do it, see. But now you see that to do what Madame Guyon talked about, which is also what I do. But first you have to find that meditative state. That's why you meditate first. See, she didn't have the meditation that I have. If she had it, she would have appreciated it, but she wouldn't have needed it. Okay? All right. But undoubtedly, you need it. Most people need it. You need a little something to help you find that objective state. Okay? And then you do a little meditative reading. And then instead of getting lost in the words, see, that's what most people do. They get lost in the words, lost in the thoughts, lost in the concepts. And then they try to figure things out and analyze and see. No, you read but read lightly. Read lightly until something is highlighted. Then put the book away and just be satisfied with that. And from that will then come realizations and understanding, and they will be from God, from within. Okay? Well, I hope you enjoyed today's little talk about scriptural or biblical meditation, and I hope to see you when I make my next video.